And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off.
Go ahead and say it, Ed. Go Tigers!
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
You like that? You like that?
F it. Jamar's down there somewhere.
The New Orleans Saints select Marcus Davenport.
No!
Splash Brothers? Yeah.
It's playoff. Keep going, Brace.
The playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
And the Louisiana Tech stabbing families, that tragedy that happened there at Tech this past week, and then Jonesboro still as they're recovering from multiple tragedies in a short period of time, and then Israel as they're still under siege over there in that war they're in. Lord, just thank you for everything you continue to give us and bless us with. Just please be with Norkay and her family and give them the strength and resiliency, and just place your hand on them, Lord, as they're battling this terrible disease. Lord, just please, if it be your will, lay your hand on her and give her complete healing. And also, as she's searching for a match for a bone marrow donor, as that is part of her treatment once she finishes undergoing chemo, Lord. And then also be with the families of the ones that lost some of the people in the stabbings at Tech, Lord. And just please be the ones that are recovering. And then also be with the young man that did that as well, Lord. Because we, if anybody can change someone's heart and save them from anything like that, Lord, it's you. Just please be with the families in Jonesboro as they're recovering from the tragedies and dealing with the fallout and everything after that, Lord. Just help them turn to you and understand that you have a plan for everything, Lord. And just please be with everybody in Israel as they're still under siege in this war. A lot of terrible things going on over there, Lord. Just please put a hedge of protection over those people that are being attacked, and help make the attackers understand that this is not the right way, Lord, and to turn to you and hopefully understand and cease the endless violence over there, Lord. And just please let us go and be a light for you, Lord, and continue to serve in your name. In your name we pray, Lord. Amen. All right, guys. So start, sit, stream for week 11. That's right. We're already here, week 11. First, I want to thank our sponsors, Big Reed BBQ, Automotive Detailing Solutions, This Little Piggy Barbecue Food Truck, Mimi's Children's Boutique, and Doug Damona Farm and Feed. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting us. As we always say, we really, y'all joined in with us first, and we couldn't do it without you. We really appreciate it. Also, our title sponsor for this episode is Mimi's Children's Boutique, located in Jonesboro, that fulfills all clothing needs for your little ones. Owners Melissa Johnson and Megan Rao offer children and baby boutique brand clothing and accessories, vinyl print T-shirts, and so much more. You can find them on Main Street in Jonesboro from 10 to 6 Tuesday through Friday and 10 to 2 on Saturday. Thank y'all guys for supporting us. And hey, Christmas is right around the corner, guys. If you're getting something for some of your little ones, go check out Mimi's Children's Boutique in Jonesboro. I know they would appreciate it. We appreciate them sponsoring us. And we're going to jump right on in with some news and injuries. First things first, big news coming out of the NFL. Another player down and out for the season, Deshaun Watson, after this last game, ended up with a shoulder injury. There was a fracture, and he had season-ending shoulder surgery. That's Deshaun Watson, quarterback for Cleveland. Huge ramifications, honestly. Could not have come at a worse time for Cleveland, who actually just beat Baltimore in Baltimore. Clay and I talked about this game to nauseum on the last Start Sit Sleeper pod, and it ended up being a shootout. Clay, I don't know about you, but I did not see that coming. No. And really wrecked some of our start sit sleeper predictions. But needless to say, I don't think Cleveland's going to be in too many more shootouts the rest of the season without Deshaun Watson. No. And there's really nobody in Cleveland that you want to pick up for his replacement.
Now, with it looks like DTR is going to get the job over Walker. with that, I know a lot of people are already saying, "Oh, that's bad, whatever,
Yeah.
because how bad he looked against Baltimore. What was that, week 4, I believe? But with
Yes.
that situation, Cleveland went the whole week with Watson
Yep.
going to be their guy. Like
That's
Robinson
right.
never got the actual starting starts in practice and
Yeah.
stuff, and now he's getting that preparation all week long. So it's going to be a
That's
lot of
right.
different option. And something that I've seen people say is like at the beginning, I mean, during the preseason, DTR looked so good that Cleveland felt good to move on from Josh Dobbs.
Yep.
So, and we see what Josh Dobbs is right now everywhere in the league. So
Yeah.
DTR has potential. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. The first game obviously wasn't a very good sign of it against Baltimore, but hey, your first start, what was that, at Baltimore?
Yeah, I mean that's
not a
that's
good
rough,
spot
man.
on short notice as well. So
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a wait and see approach for
Yeah.
any and all Cleveland Browns except for Jerome Ford, in my opinion.
yeah,
He's about the only one that I think his volume won't change and his workload, I mean, he gets the pass catching out of the backfield. Hunt gets Vulture some touchdowns, but I mean, how many goal line attempts and touchdowns are they going to get if their offense does take this big of a hit? We'll just have to see.
hey, Dustin Hopkins still going to be great at kicking.
And that's
Number
exactly
one.
right. But anyway, Deshaun Watson out for the season. Justin Fields had that thumb injury, will start this weekend. Big news for anybody, Chicago owners, players. And honestly, I kind of expect a similar type situation like we had with Fields in Chicago. Deshaun Watson is to Cleveland to me. Like, we kind of seen what happened when Fields went away from that team and that offense. They leaned a little bit more on the run. A lot of the pass catchers suffered. Cole Kmet actually became fairly serviceable. I was actually looking at him. We're going to talk about him here in a little bit, but he became fairly serviceable. But the wide receivers in general, pretty much, they didn't disappear, but they took a big hit. And I kind of expect similar things in Cleveland. But we will see. But Justin Fields is back from that thumb injury. Justin Jefferson was back at practice again, limited on Wednesday. Coach Kevin O'Connell said that they're still evaluating. They're in the evaluation stage back on Monday. But it doesn't sound completely promising that he's going to come back. Jefferson already said he's not coming back until he's 100%. He's got a 21-day window. We're only on like day 14. So he's got about another week before they have to completely activate him off IR for that 21-day window. To me, with him still being limited, I mean, he could come back. They're projecting that he's going to come back. But I mean, if I'm Minnesota, I just pulled 2 rabbits out of a hat back-to-back weeks with Josh Dobbs coming in and saving the day. We're going to Denver. Not an extremely strong team, a Denver team that looks better, but do you want to take a chance on Justin Jefferson getting out in the cold where you're not quite
the atmosphere as well?
Yeah, and you're not quite when it's cold, everything's a little bit tighter and a little bit tenser than whenever you're warm in a dome or in a warm climate. So do you want to take that chance on getting him out in the cold and re-injuring that severe, grade 2 hamstring strain that he had?
Yeah.
I just think not. To me, personally,
you're 6-4 now too, so you kind of have a little bit of leeway, and you can risk another loss this week if it happens. And Denver's also the team that you can probably beat without him. And if you
that's what I was about to say.
If you are a Jefferson owner,
yeah,
even if he does get active, you might be a little hesitant because he's going against Patrick Surtain, who, if you watch Monday night, I think held Diggs to like 3 for 35. Yep. Like Diggs had one of his worst games of the year. Surtain's an incredible corner, and if Jefferson's out there, he's going to be following.
That's right. And I mean, it would be extremely hard to sit him, and it would, if you had him, but it's just not a good situation unless he gets a couple full practices at the end of the week. I would feel better about that. But if he's still limited and then they activate him, I mean, who's to say they don't even put him out there as a decoy?
Yeah,
just to draw attention.
Draw Surtain,
with no intention of him being 100 and actually playing to 100. He's just out there because he would draw a lot of attention.
Oh,
no doubt,
definitely.
So, but anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. Keenan Allen did not practice Wednesday, was back at practice today, did not have a designation, whether it was limited or full. He just said he was back in
limited.
Okay, so he was back at practice, though. I figured yesterday was kind of maintenance related. Given the fact that he injured the shoulder in the game and then came back and continued to wreak havoc and rake last week in that game, I'm pretty sure he's probably going to be okay. They're just going to baby him until game time, so I would not worry. Devin Achane knee returned to practice on a limited basis again. It's reported that he looked good. They even reported that he wasn't even using a brace or a sleeve on his injured knee, which is pretty impressive and pretty scary on the other side of that. But he hasn't been officially activated yet. But they did, I believe, did they come out and say that he was going to play?
Yeah.
Did I read that somewhere?
They said he will be available.
He's going to be activated. So
kind of feels like the James Conner situation last week where they just they kept pushing it off for some reason.
Yeah. Well, they're probably trying to keep the other team from preparing for him as long as possible.
That's true.
Kind of a little gamemanship thing there. Tyler Lockett, on the other hand, hamstring injury. I'm pretty sure he's had this designation since like week 5. Did not practice on Wednesday. Pretty sure he hadn't practiced on Wednesday since like week 5. But he has been like the last several weeks. He hadn't practiced, but he has been upgraded at the end of the week and ends up playing and did very well last week. He almost beat me in a league that I was sitting there watching him, and I had a sizable lead for the most part. And he had a terrible first half, but the second half, it's like he just kept catching a ball for 20 or 30 yards, and he'd catch another ball for 20 or 30. I'm like, good Lord, quit throwing it to him. Throw it to DK or something. But anyway, Tyler Lockett, I expect him to play even though he didn't practice yesterday. But
Lockett
keep
and Metcalf,
an eye on it just in
Lockett
case.
and Metcalf, I think, are going to have a sneaky good next couple weeks. They've got it's a tough schedule.
Yeah,
but because I know they have San Fran twice. They've got the Rams this week, and I think they might have the Cowboys or something in there. So it might be some games where they're down and having to throw the ball a lot. Yep. And obviously, with it being San Fran, it's a big division thing. So those are some guys to watch the next couple weeks, see how they perform.
Definitely. And then Alexander Madison got knocked out last week with a concussion. Did not practice Wednesday. He's currently in concussion protocol. I would not have high hopes. If he didn't practice Wednesday already, he ain't playing this weekend, guys.
The best thing that might be going for him is that it's a Sunday night game, so he's got about 8 more hours than he usually would. But I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah. If you got Alexander Madison, I hope you got Ty Chandler. That way you can make that swap. Honestly, I don't know if I'd make that swap. I'd probably play Ty Chandler anyway.
Yeah.
At this point, and people forget how good he is at catching the ball, and I'm hoping they utilize that more this week coming up because he was the primary pass catcher there for a while in Detroit before he got let go or traded.
Yeah.
So before they signed Gibbs. So I hope he gets utilized in that pass catching role a little bit better and a little bit more in the upcoming weeks. Deontay Johnson popped up on the thumb with a DNP Wednesday, did not practice Wednesday with a thumb injury. For once, it is not a hamstring injury, guys. It's a miracle, honestly. And honestly, we probably should be thankful for that. But honestly, I kind of think, did this have something to do with his poor production last week? Because he only had 4 targets for 2 catches or something. And I'm wondering, were they using him as a decoy because he hurt his thumb? He still wanted to play, but they knew he couldn't really catch the ball as well. I don't know.
It didn't let Pickens have a good game. I'm not even sure if they threw the ball.
Yeah, but
the running backs were great.
I will say I did get a notification just a couple minutes ago before we got on though, and said from mine, and it said he was upgraded to active, and I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that.
There it is, right there. So yeah, he's doesn't even have designated return to full practice. So there you go, guys. Don't even worry about Deontay Johnson. Next to be Nico Collins with that calf injury, ended up getting ruled out last week. He returned to a limited practice this week. I'd keep my eye on this because they've been playing so well. If he's still not 100%, he doesn't get a full practice in, I wouldn't be too shocked if they held him out again.
Well, I just saw that they Dameon Pierce and Noah Brown did not practice today.
Oh, okay. Because Dameon, I
don't know if they want to go down without Brown and Collins. So,
but
Pollard
honestly,
might try to
when did
push it.
Brown get hurt? Because he played that whole game just
I
about.
don't know. Yeah,
so,
he had like 150 yards.
Yeah, I mean, my legs hurt just talking about it. But yeah. So anyway, that might lead to it. If Brown's out, they might be more inclined. So if you picked up Brown, I might have a backup plan because I didn't have him on this list, but I really thought that he didn't practice yesterday. I just thought that was maintenance. But if he didn't practice today either, that's never good when you don't practice on Thursday either. So
I'm trying to see what the injury was. It was a knee. So
yeah, it's a knee injury.
Yeah, probably not good there.
But I do feel like they've probably done imaging already if they thought it was significant. Keep an eye on that. But I knew Dameon Pierce didn't practice yesterday. I really didn't expect him to practice today, but I didn't have an update before we got started. Now we do. But honestly, with him not practicing 2 days in a row, being out as long as he has, I don't think he plays this weekend. And honestly,
Singletary looked good.
Setting up for a really good Singletary week. We're going to talk about him a little bit more here in a little bit. And then last but certainly not least, old Khalil Herbert for Chicago. Ankle injury. Thought he was coming back, and then bam, he didn't get activated. The next thing you know, he's got a shin injury. I don't know what in the world's going on with this, guys, but he was limited Wednesday. Still has not been activated from the IR yet. He practiced in full, like I said, all week last week. Did not get activated, and then he shows up with a shin injury. There's some speculation that the shin injury was something that was new that happened during practice that ended up keeping him out. So, man,
I'd go kind of wait and see, even if he does play, just because I want to see. I mean, Deontay Foreman's been good.
Yep.
So.
If he's out, Deontay Foreman's the man. But honestly, if he's in, I feel like Deontay Foreman goes back to the practice squad, which is crazy.
Maybe, but at the same time, Chicago might just start running a committee. So yeah, I'd give it a week regardless.
Yeah. So Khalil Herbert, and then that's going to wrap up our injury news report. We're going to roll right on into our start, sit, sleepers. And Clay, tell me who you're starting at quarterback.
All right, I got Kyler Murray. Kyler,
nice.
It feels like he's back already. It took 1 week, and he looked good. Had a game-winning drive. Made the game-winning plays as well to get down there and set up that field goal. He looked really good last week. I mean, better than I expected. He's playing Houston this week. Burrow had a good game against them. Baker the week before had a good one. Feels like Houston that those games are just set up for shootouts, and I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going this week. I think 17th ranked defense against quarterbacks, so they're pretty much middle ground. Kyler, I mean, when he's going, he's special. He really is, especially for fantasy. And good to see that the rushing was already there. 6 carries, 33 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, if you get that, I mean that right there is 10 points for your quarterback.
Yeah, and that's the main thing I was going to say. That rushing floor is a nice safety net, and him running 6 times already, coming off that long knee injury. I mean, he averaged around 9 or 10 rushes before. And he, if I'm not mistaken, on the career, he averages like 40 rushing yards a game.
Yeah.
You know, that's 4-point floor right there already, not to mention if he rushes a touchdown like he did last week.
And throwing in 249, didn't have a touchdown passing, so you'll expect that to happen eventually. And he had a pick, but he still had a good game. And it was against a Falcons defense that ain't bad. So,
and getting that chemistry going with the rest of his playmakers, that just takes a little bit of time. But honestly, it already looked good with Trey McBride. So,
I mean, over 100 yards for him. I'm expecting good things from Murray, and I've got him on my bench
offense,
for 2 leagues, and I'm happy with it. So
I think this offense is going to surprise some people down the stretch in Arizona.
It's
I don't know if they're going to win a lot of games, but I think that they're going to surprise some folks. So I like that pick a lot. Start for me has got to be Brock Purdy again. I mean, I hate to go back to back on some folks on this list, but it's just like it's too good to pass up. When I look at the stats and I look at the rankings, I mean, dude, when you want to talk about a picture of efficiency last week, I mean, Brock Purdy last week, 26 passes for 296 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, if that does not scream getting the ball to your playmakers and letting them work, I don't know what does. And I don't know if anybody in the league has more playmakers around him than he does, really. I mean, when you say CMC, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, and George Kittle, getting them the ball and letting them work. I mean, it's hard to argue anybody else has that kind of firepower. I mean, really,
and
if you
with
think
Kyle
about
Shanahan calling the plays for you,
even in Miami, they don't have a tight end.
No.
You know, like they have everything.
And they don't have
San
Christian
Fran.
McCaffrey in the backfield.
That's right. Well, yeah, and I mean, like at least they got like Achane and Mostert, whatever. But that's not Christian McCaffrey. But I'm just saying, like
them combined,
they really don't have a tight end. So,
Smythe, Smith, whatever. He's nothing.
But yeah, so nobody else really has a complete team like Brock Purdy does. And then this week, he gets the Tampa Bay defense that is 27th against quarterback in fantasy, allowing an average of 23.6 fantasy points. Brock Purdy has had at least 70% completion percentage the last 3 weeks. And I mean, the only thing about Tampa Bay is they're not terrible against the run.
Yeah.
So what does that tell me? Brock Purdy's probably going to throw the ball more than 26 times.
Yeah.
And if he can do 296 yards and 3 touchdowns with 26 pass attempts, I have no doubt if he throws the ball 30 to 35 times, there's a good chance he's probably going to be around that ballpark again.
I was kind of shocked last week. I mean, the Tampa game against Tennessee, I expected a lot of points there. Levis only 199, 0 touchdowns, 1 pick. So maybe Tampa figured something out defensively. Maybe it was a rookie quarterback playing a road game. Who knows? So, I mean, you expect Purdy to be better than Levis, but maybe that Tampa defense, maybe they did make a change or something happened. So maybe something to watch there, but I still expect Purdy to be a pretty safe play.
Well, and honestly, he's going to have a lot more opportunity, against them. But something else to think about, if you compare every playmaking positional player that San Fran has versus Tennessee has, you would pick every one of them over theirs. Like, are you taking Ayuk or Samuel over Hopkins now?
No.
Like right now, are you taking Kittle over Okonkwo?
No.
Are you taking CMC over Henry? Vice versa. So every one of them is going to be superior to what they had to work with. Not to mention how good San Fran's offensive line has looked with getting Trent Williams back.
Yeah.
I like Brock Purdy a lot at home against Tampa Bay. And Tampa Bay has not played that great on the road this year. That's my start. It's the same guy back to back, but it just, like, I was looking at guys, there's several guys that I did like, but it's like, man, like there's a lot of people I feel like that have Brock Purdy on their bench out there, or maybe they're starting him, but he might be on their bench. And maybe they got somebody else that's like even a Jared Goff. I'd start Purdy over Goff right now, like this week for sure, just because it's so good of a matchup, and I like Goff a lot. But I don't know. I just feel like with the playmakers and the efficiency, like it just does not take much for him to have a great week.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's my start. What's your sit at quarterback there, Clay?
I'm going Trevor Lawrence. It's a tough year for him. It really is.
Yep.
Coming into the year.
Was that your sit last week?
I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a great call.
Game. Yeah.
2 points, guys. 2 points.
Yeah.
Great call. And I looked at that pick again. I looked and I was like, I kind of wanted to pick him, but I was like, I mean, can he do it 2 weeks in a row? But it's not a good matchup, which you're about to talk about. I'm going to let you talk about that. But yeah, 2 weeks in a row. There you go. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's going against Tennessee, not the best of defenses, but still Vrabel's going to get them to play tough. It is a must-win game, so you kind of have that going for Trevor. Or I feel like it's a must-win game. Divisional game, you just got embarrassed against San Fran. Like, you want to win this game. But Trevor, 9 touchdowns, 6 picks on the year. Number 20 quarterback right now in fantasy, averaging 12 points, 12.9 points a game. As you said, coming off either 2 or 1, depending on your format. Like not a good week last week.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's essentially a wait and see approach with Trevor. And it's going to require touchdowns, which he's had 2 games this year with 2. It's going to require yards, which he's had 1 game over 300. For coming into the year, especially after the playoff win last year, giving the Chiefs everything that they had. Doug Peterson, Calvin Ridley, like everything seemed like Trevor Lawrence going to take that big step. And It's just
Did not happen.
it's been a big step the other way in my opinion. Like it's been pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean 2 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. But what's more concerning to me is in the last 2 weeks he's only rushed the ball 3 times total. Twice last week and once the week before.
Yeah.
And there for a while, he had a pretty decent little floor there, getting anywhere from 20 to 40 yards on the ground. Yeah. And the last couple weeks, no rushing hardly at all. So it kind of makes you wonder, did he tweak that knee a little bit again?
And it ain't an easy schedule coming up for them. Tennessee, Houston, Cincy, Cleveland, Baltimore. That's rough.
Yeah. That is a rough schedule. So, but yeah, I like that pick a lot there, Clay. I looked at him hard. So yeah, definitely can't argue with you there.
At some point, you just got to like pull the trigger and say this ain't his year.
Yeah.
Like if you're still starting him, I know most people probably drafted him to be their starter. If not, he's like a 1A, 1B type backup with them. But yeah, there's better options. There's a Brock Purdy. There's a Jared Goff. There's I mean, Kyler Murray, like Justin Fields might have been dropped in your league. There's options.
Yep, I agree. So, and then my sit at quarterback this week is going to be your boy Clay, Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
And this doesn't have anything to do with Baker, but everything to do with the San Francisco defense.
Yeah.
That they put the clamps on. I know we talked about Trevor Lawrence not playing up to par, but dude, you got Chase Young on one side. You got Nick Bosa on the other side. I mean, the only weak spot is their secondary. I was really shocked they didn't go out and get a secondary player. But when that defensive that front four can get pressure and allow everybody else to drop back into coverage, it makes it pretty hard. And to me, Baker is at his worst by far when he's under pressure.
Yeah.
And I think this is the run. I think this is the game where Baker's on a run right now, at least 23 or more fantasy points 4 weeks in a row. But 5 weeks ago, before that streak started, he only had 6 fantasy points against a very formidable Detroit defense, where that defensive front four, very similar and not as good as this defensive front four. They get a lot of pressure with just rushing 4 guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes a lot of problems for Baker Mayfield in his progressions whenever he has that many people he's having to navigate and getting pressure. So, I mean, to me, I feel like it's a similar situation. I like Baker for the rest of the season. He's got a lot of good matchups coming up, but this is the one that I don't like. And, I mean, if it were me, I'd be looking elsewhere personally. I like him the rest of the season, but this one I don't want any part of.
Luckily, the guy I'm facing this week in one of my leagues has Baker, Trevor Lawrence, and Deshaun Watson as his quarterbacks. So hopefully we nail these sits and that they're not. He doesn't have a good option on his team.
Yeah.
The only silver lining I guess you could see with Baker would be that it's probably going to be a negative game script and they're going to be trailing. You would assume. So maybe you see just garbage time. Maybe he gets over that 250 yards just because it's late. But yeah, you expect a turnover or two. You expect not a lot of scoring, honestly. Big game though, big game, and that 3:00 slate is going to be very fun Sunday between Niners, Bucks, Jets, Bills, and Rams, Seahawks. They all could be some pretty good games. I love Baker, but this isn't probably the week for him.
That's right. Yep. So, all right. So now that we talked about our sits, let's talk about some sleepers that people might need to try to start instead of those sits.
Yeah, I'm just going to go Justin Fields here.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of going under the radar. Before he got hurt, it feels like things were almost clicking.
Yep.
Yeah. Like it felt like he was the Justin Fields that people came into the year expecting to see. Playing Detroit this week. I mean, Detroit's got a good defense, but also Justin Herbert gave him a pretty good game last week. Fields, though, maybe something is clicked. Who knows? They got the running back game. They got the running back going. Foreman, maybe Herbert's back. Regardless, I think they've kind of figured something out there. And The more that the run game's going, the better that Chicago's going to be.
Yep.
And another little fun fact, Justin Fields has more touchdown passes than Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
And Justin Fields
Sad
hasn't
to
played football in 4 weeks.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and Justin Fields also gets talked about because he can't throw the ball.
Yep.
So-
Hey, look, man, I'm not, I was not on the Fields train originally, but the last couple, really the end of last year and this year, he has looked a lot better as a passer than I was giving him credit for. Same thing with CJ Stroud, but and you're right, he is a lot more of a balanced quarterback than people do give him credit for.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be
2 4-touchdown games before he got hurt.
Yeah. And if they're giving him some weapons, if they get him a little bit better offensive line, I think he could really be something. And honestly, you want to really talk crazy talk. If they end up wanting to get rid of him, I really hope the Saints go after him.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough situation because obviously Fields probably still needs some time to work, but when you have a chance at Caleb Williams or Drake May, which they're going to, he's probably on the outside. And I'm more scared about Atlanta getting him.
You're exactly right. I like Derek Carr. Don't get me wrong, but Justin Fields, to me, he's got a lot more future than Derek Carr does to me, especially the way the league's going. But I also think we need a new offensive coordinator before any of that happens.
Yeah.
But that really offensive coordinator and head coach. I mean, I'd love Dennis Allen to stay on as defensive coordinator, but that I just don't see that happening after he's been the head coach. But that's just me. Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast right there. My sleeper for me this week is going to be Geno Smith at the Los Angeles Rams.
Almost put that.
I figured one of y'all might if that was. And by the way, Josh is traveling down because he's big balling now, going down to see the Pelicans play. And then what else was he doing? He was going down there for
Stapleton, maybe?
Chris Stapleton concert, going to hang out with the bearded man and go to see the Pelicans and the new star of the league, Jordan Hawkins, and the New Orleans Pelicans. It's not quite yet, but he's getting there. Be safe travels, Josh. Be careful. Take a picture with somebody famous for us. But Geno Smith. Honestly, the way to attack this defense of the Rams is through the air. They're not bad against the run, but through the air, they're 17th ranked against quarterbacks. They're giving up around 20 points a game, but also Geno Smith has the wide receivers to do major damage. I mean, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett really looked good last week, and Jackson Smith and Jigba just doesn't even get the chance. And he's another solid one. If he had the opportunity that some of these other younger ones have had, I think he would be one of the young wide receivers we'd be talking about a little bit more than we are right now. And it's just a matter of an injury in it for him to get that opportunity.
Yeah.
But Geno Smith's got the ability. He's got the passing attack. He's got the run game that they can threaten with, but he's also got the pass catchers in the running backs. He's got both Walker and Charbonnet. Charbonnet a better pass catcher, but both of them are very sufficient. So I think it's a solid chance that he has a good game. He blew up last week. And honestly, if he does blow up this week, I would kind of consider trading him because his schedule gets pretty rough after this week, personally. He's got some pretty tough matchups after this week coming up. If your trade deadline hadn't passed and he has a beast of a game, because that'll give him two big games back to back, and maybe somebody's living in last year, I would consider trading him. But yeah, I like Geno Smith at the Rams this week a lot. I think just about anybody on Seattle's team is going to have a good week.
Yeah, I like that pick. I do. Let's do this. Let's do some running backs.
Right. Yeah. Who you start?
I feel like we might have the same start. I don't know that, but we'll see.
We'll see.
I'm going Javonte Williams.
No, not quite. I looked at him hard, but I completely agree, but go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, I'm going Javonte, playing Minnesota, who we know not a great defense really overall. They've been better the past couple weeks, but still, I believe they're one of the worst ranked running defenses. James Cook, we just saw him have a great game while barely getting touches. Latavius Murray also looked good against them. Javonte, though, the volume is what's making me start him. And I have him in one league, and I tried trading him pretty much the first 8 or 9 weeks of the season. Like, I was just constantly begging someone to take him. No one wanted him. And now he's almost untouchable. Like, he's really turned it. Sean Payton, I guess, has just figured out maybe this isn't going to be the Saints. We don't have Drew Brees. We're going to just instead play good defense and run the ball, which is the most non-Sean Payton thing ever. But it's working, and now they're 4-5, and they got a chance at being 500 and in the playoff picture, shockingly, if they win Sunday. And Javonte Williams is a big part of that. He's really looking like the guy that, in the preseason we talked about so much. What's stopping Perine from taking this job? Like, why does Javonte just have this like assumed start? Like, he's going to be the guy. Like, what's making Javonte that? Now we're seeing it. It's taken some time. It's taken more time than people expected, but now it's working.
At least 25 touches the last 2 weeks. Ooh. At least. That is a ton. Not to mention at least 3 catches with at least 1 receiving touchdown the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, what can you say?
25 touches. Like, who else is doing that?
I mean, Josh Jacobs, and that's probably it, because they are riding him like nobody's Seabiscuit over there. But, I mean, we just seen it. Really, the way to get to Minnesota's run defense is through the air. And with him being the primary pass catching back on that team, I think there's a solid chance that he has a decent week against the Minnesota, and probably a game that's going to be a lot higher scoring than people liked.
It's a game that people were begging to flex, but now it's a 6-4 Vikings versus 4-5 Broncos that's like just beat the Bills and Chiefs. So it's a low key interesting game, which is shocking to say.
So, I like that pick a lot. And going from that pick, I'm going to pick on the Bills a little bit more. My start's going to be Breece Hall at Buffalo.
There you go.
When you think Buffalo, you think good defense. You think not a good matchup to play people against. But, I mean, that's definitely not the case for running backs this year. Buffalo's the 22nd ranked defense against running backs this year, giving up an average of 24.1 points a game. And given that Hall is getting about 80% of those 80% of the snap count and 80% of the touches in general, really, for the running backs of the Jets, I like his odds to have a pretty good week again. Last week he kind of laid a dud, and that's why I wanted to put him on this list, because last week he only had about 10 points, and then you see Buffalo on the schedule, and you're like, I don't know if I might try to find somebody else to play over him, which would be kind of crazy. But anyway, I just want to talk about it a little bit, because just in case anybody lost any faith in him or whatever, start this man against Buffalo. Last week, they gave up 31.5 points to Denver running backs, who we just talked about. And most of that was through the air. All right. Several of the points that they had, that Denver had against Buffalo's run defense, was through the air to their running backs. What does Breece Hall do the most and the best for the Jets? He catches the ball, probably. He's one of the most efficient pass-catching running backs in the NFL, other than probably Kamara. There's a couple other ones that are really good at it, but he is extremely good and efficient, catch the ball out of the backfield. And if the Jets are as smart as I think they are, which I don't know, I'm starting to question it here lately, but they're going to notice that that's the way to beat the Bills, and that's what Denver figured out, and they did. So I expect more of the same this week. At Buffalo, I think Breece Hall has a solid game.
Yeah,
so not to mention like that's kind of built up to be a pretty solid, a pretty big rivalry game now. Buffalo and the Jets. The same area, New Jersey and Buffalo, in that New York area there.
Jets beat them week 1 as well.
That's right. Yeah, so it's kind of a big rivalry game. So, but I like Breece Hall a lot this week. And I know, like, most people are going to be starting him anyway, but if you had thoughts or reservations, don't. Definitely somebody you need to start. So, what about your sit? Who are you sitting this week?
I'm going Raheem Mostert.
Okay.
Mostert, he's still a solid option, and he's probably still ranked the top 5 running back in the fantasy so far this year.
Oh, yeah, number 2.
Yeah, it's crazy. And A-Chain's probably top 10, and he ain't played but 3 games.
Number 19.
Wow, that's crazy.
But only 3 games. That's right. Really, yeah.
With that, it's just a wait and see approach. I want to see how this backfield looks now that for the first time they're going to have all 3 backs healthy. Wilson hasn't really been as effective as I expected or used as much. It's still been
I was really shocked.
But now it's going to be Mostert. It's going to be Wilson. You're going to have A-Chain, who's probably going to be the one or be the big play guy. I want to see how it looks. We'll see. I mean, there's really no reason not to start him because he's probably still gonna have a good game. Might get in the end zone still, but that's a backfield where I want to see it work.
Couple things that I can back you up here on this with. First off, it's against the Raiders, who are not that great of a defense either, really, honestly. So it could be a blowout. And what that could mean is they lean more on Jeff Wilson and let Mostert, who is already questionable, he's going to play because he's only limited with an ankle and a knee injury. He's limited, but he's questionable still nonetheless. And if they're winning, they're not going to ride him. And then another thing that's really jumped out at me, he has no catches in the last 2 weeks.
Huh.
So, he has no catches in the last 2 weeks. So
I hadn't realized that. And that feels like that Wilson, I mean, Mostert, I don't know, it feels like something's just changing and that Miami defense is Miami offense is, I don't know, they're almost coasting a little bit. They're not really being the most explosive offense that they've been that they were in the beginning of the year, which was when Mostert had the big plays, A-Chain had the big plays, stuff like that. We'll see how they handle it, but I don't know. I just want to see it work, and it's an interesting game because the Raiders, you don't really look at them as a good team, but they've been kind of performing well the past couple weeks. They're up to 5-5 on the year as well. So, we'll see how it goes.
I think Miami's will come off this bye firing on all cylinders, and
Waddle should be healthy for the first time in a while, or fully healthy.
So, but anyway, I like that pick a lot. And then for me, my sit's got to be Isaiah Pacheco. As we talked a little bit about before the pod started, he's been real in the last couple of weeks. He's got a brutal schedule coming up, but this week, Philadelphia. Anytime, to me, you have an RB2 on your team going to go up against the number 1 ranked defense, specifically number 1 ranked run defense in the NFL, you should probably be thinking about swapping them out if you have another option that's comparable with a better matchup. And to me, there really is not a bright side looking at this, other than the fact you hope that he could fall in the end zone because Kansas City can move the ball. But we all know what Kansas City does when they get down to the goal line. They do a shovel pass to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, or they do anything besides what you would expect.
Hand the ball off. No, they don't do that. So anyway, but the 2 weeks before their bye, Kansas City, Pacheco had plus matchups. And what did he do? He had 6 points in each of them. Just 6 points. Maybe he's rejuvenated after the bye. He bounces back and looks better, but I don't think it's this week against Philadelphia. I really don't. They're only allowing an average of 14.2 points a game to running backs, which is, a fair amount. Is that in the passing game? Because if you go back and look at the yardage they're allowing, it is terrible. Okay. The only way they're allowing those points is to pass catching running backs. And does Pacheco pass catch very often? No, he's done more this year, but McKinnon is McKinnon still there? Yeah. McKinnon's been still catching some passes again. So anyway,
that Chiefs offense overall, they're just kind of dragging. We talked about it a little bit last night on the podcast. It feels like they're just kind of doing enough to get by.
That's right.
And I mean, you saw it last time that they played against Denver. Like they put up 9 points, I believe.
That's right.
Which is shocking to say if you're Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce and them. But yeah, Pacheco. As much as I need him to be good, I'm trying not to start him as much as I can right now, just because it's rough.
The last little nugget I'll leave you with: Philadelphia has only given up 2 touchdowns to running backs all season. The most recent one was 5 weeks ago, and that was to Brees Hall. So, yeah, there you go. Wow. Highly recommend sitting Pacheco. Yeah. Just saying. But that's going to round out our sits. What are some people that we might try to start instead of our sits? Who you starting or sleeping on, Clay?
This one's pretty deep here, and yeah. I hate to do it given one of my fantasy teams that I really need his backfield mate to perform. But I'm going Rico Dowdle.
Yeah,
against Carolina. You're expecting the Cowboys to win that game and win that game very quickly and very easily. And when that's been the case past couple of weeks, Dowdle's going in and Dowdle's gotten the last quarter and a half of work, and
at least second half of the last game, whole second half.
And sometimes he's even getting some spare touches here and there when Pollard, like whenever it's still a game early on. So
that's right.
You're not expecting him to blow you away early. But I mean, if they're up 3 touchdowns, say at halftime, Dowdle will come in. He'll get about 10 touches. Maybe he falls in the end zone. Crap, he's looked like the better running back than Pollard this year, honestly. It's just a situation of Cowboys are pretty good, Panthers are very bad. Let's go with the backup running back. It's a tough play and it's a risky play, but I think it can work out.
Yeah, I mean, he was on my high value handcuffs for the waiver wire edition just for the reasons you just said. For one, their schedule coming up is cake. Like there are a ton of matchups. It should be just like the Giants
Pollard
game.
Should be good.
And so, but the bad part about that is why play Pollard if you're up by 30? You know what I mean? And he's your star running back. Save him for the playoffs. Now, granted, he has not looked that good, but maybe he's more banged up than they lead on. Who knows? I really don't know because we know how good he can be. We've seen it. But I like that pick a lot because Dowdle could definitely get a lot more run. And when they clinch, because they're going to make the playoffs, I think, and I think they'll clinch. I mean, do we see Rico Dowdle all the way? You know, I don't know.
I don't like it.
It's either that or Deuce Vaughn, you know, who had a fumble last game, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not so sure we're going to see him because Mike McCarthy's old school. You put the ball on the ground, you probably ride the pine. But anyway, so I like that pick a lot for sure. And I think Dowdle's somebody you pick up and stash. If you got Tony Pollard, you better pick him up ASAP.
Yeah, and you can probably pick him up in just about any league.
Yeah. So anyway, but I like that pick a lot. And then my sleeper for me this week's got to be Devin Singletary. I mean, we talked about it in the injury report. Dameon Pierce looked like he's going to be out. And honestly, you just never know who's going to pop up in this column for us.
Yeah.
And I really never thought Devin Singletary was going to be on any of my columns this year.
No.
I really didn't. But here he is coming off. I really don't know, but possibly a career high week for him. I don't think he's ever had 150 rushing yards.
I don't know if he ever had 80 in Buffalo.
Yeah. So
he was never good.
A career week for Singletary against Cincinnati, nonetheless, who's, I mean, you know, a fairly middle of the pack defense, not somebody you expect to give up 150 yards to one player. And he's getting the lowly Arizona defense coming in ranked 30th against running backs, giving up an average of 27.8 points a game. Not to mention they've given up 4 touchdowns to running backs in the last 3 weeks. And honestly, with Pierce already looking like he's going to be out for another week, man, I really wouldn't be shocked if Devin Singletary was like top 12 this week. If he gets the work against this Arizona defense, a game that they very well could be up on. If not, if not trying to control the game for the most part, and getting more opportunities. So I don't see Pierce coming back because he hadn't practiced, and I think Singletary gets a majority of the work.
Even if Pierce does come back, it's starting to look like Singletary's taking it over.
Yeah,
we saw that before Pierce got hurt. We started to see Singletary get like a bit of a 60-40 share over Pierce. Like it was starting to become his running back room, but you just didn't want to believe that because of what we saw with Pierce last year and because of what we know Singletary has been his whole career.
Yep. And honestly, with everybody having to respect the passing game so much in C.J. Stroud, I think that's opened up the run a lot more as well.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought coming into the year that we'd be talking about Noah Brown and Devin Singletary in Houston, and how good they're being.
So
it's crazy.
But yeah, so that's our sleepers, that's our running backs. Let's jump right on into our starts at wide receiver. Who you starting?
All right, I'm going Mr. Boomer Bust himself. I'm going DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a boom week. I feel like it is.
Yeah.
Didn't have the week I expected last week, even though I really needed him to because I needed some wins. But I think he's going to get it going this week, playing against Jacksonville. Not the best pass defenses. We just saw what Brock Purdy did to him. Pretty big game for Tennessee. I think they're 3-6. Yeah. They need to win. Levis, first time playing Jacksonville. Let's just see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I like Hopkins' situation a lot.
Yeah,
it is risky. It always will be whenever you're playing him, or especially this year. In the past, not so much, but it feels like he's either going to go for 100 or he's going to go for 20.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this week's going to be more towards 100. And maybe this is just me trying to speak it into existence because I need him to win.
Go. Well, and you got to look at is you do got to like the targets that he's got in the last 2 weeks. 11 2 weeks ago, 9 last week. He's getting the ball thrown to him. So maybe him and Levis are just still trying to get that chemistry, that timing down. And honestly, maybe you hope it's this week against the Jacksonville team that has given up at least 30 points to wide receivers in the last, looks like 5 weeks in a row. At least 30 points and at least 1 touchdown to a wide receiver the last 5 weeks. Actually, I take that back. They've given up a touchdown to a wide receiver in every game this year. So there you go for that. But at least 30 points to wide receivers in the last 5. So, I think you got a pretty good chance of possibly a boom week this week with him.
Hey, I'm 2-8, but I'm alive in the playoffs, and I need D-Hop.
Dude, if you're alive at 2-8, good for you, man.
I'm telling you, we have the craziest leagues this year. This is our Dirty Boot auction league. And it's so tightly contested. Like I think one team is clinched, and I think it's Mark Parker. I think he's the only one that's clinched right now. It's crazy. Like I'm in last place, but I'm 2 games out of the playoffs.
Well, good luck, man. Well, you're gonna like this next one for me is gonna really play into your sleeper at quarterback, but I really think DJ Moore's a start this week at Detroit. Kind of a little gutsy because Fields just coming back, but they've been trying to get more and more involved for like last week, especially. He had 9 targets and a rush. The weeks that he was like, especially right before when Fields kind of got his footing going, we seen Moore explode. And Detroit's defense, the way you attack them is through the pass. Talked about a little bit ago, just a little bit of allusion to them, but their front 4 is great, but their secondary not so much. They're ranked 20th in the league and against the wide receiver, giving up an average of 37.5 points to wide receivers. And not to mention last week, they gave up 72.7 points to wide receivers, to the Los Angeles Chargers wide receivers, primarily Keenan Allen, but they gave up a ton of points to Los Angeles Chargers wide receivers. And DJ Moore is that wide receiver 1 for them. And I just think Fields focuses on getting more of the ball, getting him involved, getting back. I hope we get to see that chemistry has not been wasted as he's been out throughout the year. But honestly, I also think that Chicago's going to have to pass the ball and move the ball to keep up with this Detroit offense because they definitely are clicking on all cylinders right now. I think DJ Moore has a great week. I like him a lot this week.
Yeah, so I'm good with that for sure.
Yeah. So all right. So there's some starts for you at wide receiver. Who we sitting at wide receiver?
I'm going with the Josh route of fade whoever's playing Cleveland, and we're going Deontay Johnson this week.
Yeah.
That Pittsburgh offense is pretty brutal, so that helps it as well. Deontay, as we mentioned, didn't have a great week last week against Green Bay. Maybe it was the thumb injury. Maybe it was Jari Alexander. Who knows? But the thumb injury, and that doesn't. That helps my case here for a sit. I'm assuming he'll play through it, but that's another thing that just adds to the fact that it's going against him. Denzel Ward on the other side, great cornerback. That Browns defense is going to have to come to play, especially now that Watson's out. They're going to have to play with a little bit more of an edge. And whenever those two teams play, it's always tough and it's physical. And I don't like my chances if I'm Deontay Johnson.
Completely agree. Looked at that pick as well myself, honestly, but I could not resist the low hanging fruit of Amari Cooper versus Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got another star cornerback there, Minkah Fitzpatrick, going up against. He's still there, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Going up against Fitzpatrick. I mean, going up against Fitzpatrick, man, that's throwing it way back. He's not. He's like, but going up against Amari Cooper, and but this has a lot to do with just Cooper losing Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
And also, though, a lot of people probably don't know, but Cam Hayward for the Pittsburgh defense came back. And last week, and that is a big piece for this pass rush. And that helps a lot because they have to give him a lot of attention instead of focusing all on stopping TJ Watt. Now you got both of them coming at you.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to help this pass rush a lot. I think that's going to help this defense a lot. And I was wrong about Cooper last week because he ended up having a decent game. But also here we are again picking on the Cleveland game because we got Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Last week it was Cleveland and Baltimore. But I feel like with Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming in, last time he was just 1 for 16 with Cooper. He focused on getting the ball to Njoku and his running backs. With the injury, I need to see more, but I think the Pittsburgh rush defense also is going to get to – I think they're going to get to Dorian Thompson-Robinson more than we expect. I think also with him being younger and a mobile quarterback, he's going to be more likely to pull that ball down and try to run, which is going to limit the passing attempts and going to limit the ability of the pass catchers, obviously. Also, Cooper has been living on big plays down the field. And another thing about young quarterbacks, typically you don't see a lot of big plays down the field, because their progressions are a little bit slower. And also with this pass rush of the Pittsburgh defense, he's not going to have as much time, even as a veteran quarterback would. He's not going to feel as comfortable as long. And if he doesn't have enough time to give or even throw open to Amari Cooper, I just think he's going to have a minimal game at best.
Yeah.
It's just not a good situation for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, so I'm not a big Cooper fan this week.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that pick. I couldn't pick him just because of my Browns bias, but I do think it's going to be a pretty rough game for Cooper. Yeah, it could go well because he had some games with PJ Walker where he performed better than you would expect whenever you have PJ Walker throwing the ball. But we'll see. And
I would feel better if PJ Walker was the quarterback. I'm just saying Dorian Thompson-Robinson doesn't have a lot of experience in the NFL.
No. Oh yeah.
And PJ Walker doesn't have a ton either, but he's got more than DTR. And then going up against this Pittsburgh defense, I just think it's going to be rough. So.
Yeah, and I think the over and under on this game is 32.5 points, which is shockingly low for an NFL game. Usually they're never under 39, and 32.5 is pretty freaking low. So they're not Vegas isn't expecting points here.
So all right, we got our sits. Who are we sleeping at wide receiver?
I'm going with a sleeper that I'm just going to go ahead and say it's not going to work, but it should work. We're going Quentin Johnston.
Dude.
It's got to work eventually, man.
Tell me about it, dude.
He's got too much talent. He's got all the situation in the world to make this work this week. Keenan Allen's a little banged up. Yeah, he's going to play still, it looks like. But with Keenan Allen, all it takes is one thing, and Keenan Allen's out the game for the whole week. And then I think Gerald Everett is also banged up, I believe.
Oh, yeah. He got banged up because he was my sleeper. And I looked, and he had 2 targets with no catches. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah,
he
and
hurt,
he did not practice
or first
today.
Quarter or something.
Did not practice today with a chest injury, so that's yet another pass catcher down.
Yep.
Quentin Johnston hasn't really done anything that gives you hope.
He caught a touchdown pass, but that was about it. Yeah.
He caught the touchdown pass. Playing Green Bay, Jari Alexander's on the other side of Keenan Allen. You're assuming he's going to be shadowing him. So who is Justin Herbert going to throw the ball to? It's got to be Johnston. It's got to be. Maybe it's Jalen Guyton. Who knows? Austin Eckler maybe just have a big game. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But it's set up for this to be the week that Johnston, I guess you could say, has a breakout. And I'm gonna take the chance on it. He should be available in most of your leagues. Looks like he's rostered in 33% for fantasy, on ESPN, but a lot of those are probably dynasty leagues as well.
Ranked around 54.
54.
Just FYI.
There you go.
50, that's a deep sleeper there, Clay. And I agree. I mean, it's just a matter of time. We've heard too much about his big playability and rush and just being a big play asset in general. That's why he went so high. And to do nothing. The only thing that does scare me is Jalen Guyton comes in all out of nowhere and gets more targets than him in the last week.
Yeah, that's the Chargers are always so weird with that.
In the world? Because I didn't, and so I ain't gonna lie, man. Jalen Guyton kind of worries me a little bit. Like he might sneak in there and be the number one guy.
Yeah.
And but I agree, it's got to happen. Like if it's gonna happen, if it doesn't, I mean, you got to talk about a bust.
Yeah.
Like to have this kind of opportunity with his hype. I mean,
he's an athletic freak. Like he should work. Mike Williams is out.
Could you imagine
step
if
up to be Mike
JSN
Williams
was there? Like, I feel like he
or
would
Jordan
be,
Addison.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a great pick because he's got all the opportunity in the world. It might not happen, but I agree. I've got him in like 3 leagues sitting on the bench because I keep waiting for it. And yeah, I mean, I hope so, but we'll see, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah,
but...
For me, I picked a guy that honestly I just had to give him some love because he's been doing it under the radar, it seems like, all year. But Courtland Sutton, man.
I like that.
I feel like people have been kind of sleeping on him all year, and he's still ranked like outside the top 24. Yeah. And I think he might even be like outside the top 30 this week. Let me pull it up just to double check.
I tried trading for him in multiple leagues. I just couldn't get it to happen.
31. Okay. 31. But the man has got a touchdown catch in all but 2 games this year. Like, and then last week he ties his season high in targets. Like, put some respect on that man's name.
He's a really good player. We've always known that he could do this.
And that was against Tre'Davious White because he's still out there, right? He didn't get hurt, not that I know of, right?
Oh no, Tre'Davious out. Yeah.
Okay, so whoever their number 1 corner is, I'm sure was on him. So when did he get hurt? Because I knew it, but I thought that was deja vu. He got hurt last year. And
Week
I thought I was
5
dreaming
or
that
6, I believe. I think he tore his
Achilles. Got hurt again.
It was something devastating. Yeah.
Oh Lord, man. I guess I just got confused because I knew he got hurt last year, and he was out, and then he came back, and I was like, I guess I missed that.
I think
anyway,
he went from torn ACL to torn Achilles.
Oh my gosh,
he's had it bad.
Yeah. Dude, it's the turf, man. Mark my words. I'm one of those conspiracy theorists. I really do. I think it's the turf.
I definitely agree.
But anyway, 8 catches for 53 yards. You don't love the efficiency, but a touchdown with 11 targets. I mean, I don't know what to say. And other than the fact he's I mean, they got him ranked down there with Zay Flowers, Calvin Ridley, who hadn't done nothing since like week 2. He is ranked after Amari Cooper, who's going up against Pittsburgh with DTR's quarterback. All right, guys, like, give me a break, man. Like, anyway, I seen that and I was like, dude, that's somebody I got to talk about. But not only that, so Russell Wilson is really zoning in on him. And then he's getting the Minnesota defense is ranked 26th against wide receivers, giving up an average of 40 points a game to wide receivers. And last week they gave up 44.7 to New Orleans. And we had like 3 different quarterbacks throwing passes in that game.
Yeah, and it wasn't even Michael Thomas. It was A.T. Perry and Olave.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't think Courtland Sutton's going to go out there and probably dominate? I mean, dominate's a strong word, but I think he's got a great chance to have another touchdown catch. And also, Minnesota is giving up 2. Hold on, lost my place there. Yeah, Minnesota gave up 2 touchdowns to wide receivers in New Orleans. And Sutton's got a touchdown in every game but 2 this year. I mean, if they just gave up 2, that's probably a solid chance that he's going to end up probably catching another one this week.
Yeah.
And then, and then not only that, but I mean, they just come off a big win against Buffalo. I feel like they got some momentum going. Sean Payton's finally winning this team over, and this is going to be a really good game with Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a big game, which is it's crazy to say, but it really is.
Yeah. So anyway, I like Cortland Sutton a lot as a sleeper. He's been on my bench honestly for a lot of the season, mainly because in all my leagues I went wide receiver heavy. So like in one of my leagues, I got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, and Garrett Wilson. Like, where am I starting Cortland Sutton at? You know what I mean? But it's like, I mean, I did start him on some buys and he produced for me. But, if people are out there still sitting this guy and thinking about starting Deontay Johnson, get out of here. Start Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I'm on the Cortland Sutton train right now. So I like him a lot. But that's going to round out our wide receivers. Let's roll through tight ends real quick. Who you starting at tight end there, Clay?
All right, I'm going David Njoku. Rookie quarterback playing against Pittsburgh. As we mentioned, probably not the best situation for the receivers, but I think, whenever you think about a rookie quarterback, you think about the safety blanket. Njoku has had some pretty good games lately. It looks like his
targets have really went through the roof the last 4.
Yeah. And you're hoping that doesn't go away with the loss of Watson. It might. It very well might. But DTR, rookie quarterback, in a very tough situation here. I think he's going to try to lean on his little safety blanket, and Njoku's a pretty good one there. And, tight end's rough. I mean, you're already getting Trey McBride top 5 rank for the week.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, stuff like that, the young guys are starting to show up, but give me Njoku here.
Yeah, well, and like I'll reference, I looked at him a little bit. There was a couple of guys that I looked at for starts, but I looked at him. Honestly, I looked at him for a sit, and then I seen what he's been doing, and then I also looked and seen what he did with DTR the week that he started against Baltimore. 7 targets, 6 catches for 46 yards. So, I mean, you'll take that all day long at tight end, 6 catches for 46 yards. And he's had 2 touchdown catches in the last 3 weeks. So, and the only one he didn't have one against was Baltimore, and well, you can't really blame him there. So I like that pick a lot. So yeah, definitely. And then another one, my start this week's going to really reinforce your sleeper at quarterback again because I threw Cole Kmet in there because he's really been going here recently, but he really started going back whenever Fields started getting going. And it's a lot of the same reasons that I had him on this list as I did DJ Moore. But really, Cole Kmet was really the only pass catcher in this offense that didn't die or go down when Justin Fields did. But also, not to mention that, but Detroit is 22nd defense against tight ends so far this year. Passing the ball against Detroit is just the way to attack them. And honestly, I think, like I said earlier, Chicago's going to have to pass more to stay competitive. I think that's going to increase the pass volume with Kmet and Moore. I mean, Moore is the number 1 pass catcher in this offense. Kmet's the number 2 pass catcher in this offense. If they're going to have to throw the ball more, I think it's a good chance it's going to be their 2 best pass catchers. I just think that in a game that they're going to probably be trailing, if not being competitive, but having to throw the ball because the defensive front of Detroit is so good. I think it's a solid chance that DJ Moore and Cole Kmet have great days along with Justin Fields.
Yeah. So I like that.
I like that a lot. Who you sitting at tight end there, Clay?
I'm staying in the same game for me. I've got Pat Freiermuth coming off of injury.
Like
lot of hype for him. I mean, whenever he's out there, he's usually a top 10-ish tight end. He's got the talent. He had a pretty good start to the year, I believe. But going against that Cleveland defense, it's just rough sledding there. It really is. And coming off an injury, I'm not. What was his injury? I'm not even sure.
Hamstring, I believe. Let me double check. I got it right here. Hamstring.
Yeah, so not one that.
But he was full
to. Yeah, he was full, but
he was full. No, I know, but I'm just saying he's like 100% coming back.
Yeah, that can be re-aggravated very easily. Playing a very physical game. Yet again, just fade anybody playing Cleveland's defense. It seems like. I'll take another wait and see approach for Friday here.
Coming off a soft tissue injury in a cold Cleveland game, like we talked about Justin Jefferson earlier, they're playing at Cleveland. It's going to be freezing there. I mean, there's probably a pretty high chance, if not a decent chance, for re-injury. in that type of a game. But also, Cleveland's defense is number one against tight end. They have only allowed double-digit. They've really only allowed more than 7 points once this year to tight end. I mean, it's really impressive what they've done, and they've only allowed a touchdown in one game. They allowed 2 to Baltimore, to Mark Andrews, and that's the only game they've allowed touchdowns to tight ends all year.
Was that week 4 or was that last week?
That was week 4.
Okay.
Week 4. Yep. So So way back. It's been a while. And I love that pick because I really don't expect him to do that well. And then my sit at tight end is going to coincide with your sit at quarterback. I got Evan Ingram. Man, it's hard. I was like looking, I was like, I really don't see him. He hadn't been that great lately, but he's been getting targeted. Like, he's had at least 7 targets in every game since week 1. But last week, we saw him get shut down by San Francisco defense and held him to just 5 points. This week, he gets the second-ranked defense against tight end in Tennessee, who've not given up a touchdown to a tight end all year. And they've only given up more than 10 points to a tight end once. All right? That's very close to the Cleveland defense. And that was week 2. They gave up more than 10 points. So, man, to me, Evan Ingram might be your only option because he's been reliable for you most of the year. And I can't blame you there. But statistically, for me, this just looks like somebody that you don't want to play if you don't have to. And, I mean, I get it if you got to play him. And he could end up being okay because the volume is there. It's passing. But the way Tennessee plays the tight end, it just does not look good on paper that he's going to have a good week, especially the way Jacksonville's offense in general has struggled here as of late.
Yeah, so, and this week it's kind of a low-key rough week for tight ends. I mean, you're losing Taysom, you're losing Jonnu, Kyle Pitts. Who else is on a bye? Hunter Henry, maybe. I mean, you might be playing him.
Yeah.
Indianapolis, there really isn't a tight end to play, but you're losing 3 to 4 startable tight ends this week. So
that's right.
It's a little bit of a rough sledding, but I like the sit for Ingram.
Yeah. So who are you sleeping at tight end?
Going Tyler Conklin.
I like it.
Playing Buffalo, Conklin back-to-back really good weeks. I believe he had 6 catches for 66 yards or something like that.
That's right. Yep, that was week before last. Last week he had 7 for 70.
There you go. So maybe he's going for 8 for 80. We'll see.
He might be, man.
I hope so because I'm starting him in a league. I like the Conklin pick here. Buffalo's defense hasn't been amazing. I know you picked Breece Hall, another Jets offensive player. It really feels like Breece, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin are all pretty startable week to week. It seems.
I agree.
I'll keep riding that train.
I mean, I talked about him on my waiver pod, but just 2 weeks ago, the Buffalo defense gave up 101 yards and 2 touchdowns to Cincinnati tight ends. Ooh. All right, every tight end on Cincinnati's team had a good week. It was crazy.
Yeah,
but
was
anyway,
Tanner Hudson and guys that shouldn't be doing that.
So I like Conklin's chances to have a solid day for sure. And then my sleeper at tight end's got to be Luke Musgrave. He's been on this list before, and the last time he was on this list, he got hurt in the first half. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. But honestly, this is an excellent matchup. He's going up against the Chargers defense, is 26th ranked against the tight end so far this season. They're giving up an average of 15 points a game. Not to mention they've given up at least 17 points to tight ends the last 4 weeks. Okay. But Musgrave, he really hasn't had the volume the last couple of weeks, and I don't know why, because if you look at the volume he has had, he's been making monster plays. I mean, he's averaging over 20 yards per catch the last 2 weeks, and they're barely throwing him the ball. And I got to feel like it's just a matter of time till they realize this.
I'll give you a challenge right here. So my must-win team, the 2-8 team, don't have a tight end because Taysom's on a bye. Okay. I have the option of Logan Thomas, Luke Musgrave, Tyler Conklin. Which one am I starting?
Well, definitely not starting Thomas because, believe it or not, the Giants are terrible at a lot of things, but guarding the tight end is not one of them.
Okay.
So they're fifth. They're fifth against that. Musgrave has the far better matchup as far as 26 against the Chargers.
But he's also got Jordan Love and the Packers, so that scares me.
He does, but I also think that there's a good chance that the Packers are trailing in this game.
That's true.
There's a solid chance that with the Jets' defense, it could be competitive. And, I'm not saying Conklin won't be involved, but he might not have that. Because if you look, those games that he was involved, I still like him, but they were trailing against the Chargers and the Raiders, if I'm not mistaken. So they were throwing the ball a fair amount, trying to stay in the game. Yeah. And I think that's going to be the same case for Green Bay. And we've seen whenever Green Bay trails and Jordan Love is in 2-minute offense, he will find Luke Musgrave. And the last couple weeks when he hasn't had that much volume was against Pittsburgh, who I think they were beaten. The Rams, who, if I'm not mistaken, they might have been beaten. And the Rams, when he had 3 catches for 51 and a touchdown. So he broke a big one for a touchdown then. And then the one before that was against Minnesota. I don't know if that might have been a game he got hurt in, because he got hurt and went out for something in one of those games the last couple of weeks. And I can't remember what it was, but he had a good matchup, ended up going down. But anyway, so I think that they're going to be trailing, and I think there's, with it being a good matchup for him against the Chargers and them having to throw the ball, I think he's just going to have more opportunity.
I'm going for it. I'm going Luke Musgrave.
And, and honestly, he's right as far as they got him projected higher. So, hey, that doesn't hurt to look at that either. So I like Musgrave. I think he's got a good chance. I think there's a chance that he gets back to that 6-7 targets this week at least, coming from Jordan Love. Now, do I love Jordan Love being his quarterback? Absolutely not. But we've seen him be productive with him, and we've seen Jordan Love, lead that offense down the field. And in against the Chargers defense, it's not that successful.
Yeah, and Chargers, you expect to be leading the game, so I like that aspect a lot.
Yeah, so that's what I'm going with that. So, but that's going to rat out our positional players. We got just a few I got a few streaming defenses to go over and a few kickers that I'll go through, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up, guys, so we can get out there and watch our Thursday night football matchup between Cincinnati and Baltimore. Great matchup. I know Clay is super pumped because his boy Lamar is trying to get back on track after a couple rough weeks.
Yeah, but and I still love Burrow.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not saying it. I'm just, I know Lamar's your boy, and he's had some rough weeks, so you're probably looking for him.
It was a very tough situation whenever I had Burrow, Lamar, and Baker in that division.
Yeah.
I'm glad Baker's gone now, but
that's right.
And I've got to root for Lamar and Burrow forever.
But just a couple decent streaming options this week. My number one has got to be Miami versus Las Vegas, though. Honestly, Miami's defense for me might be a defense you want to pick up and start probably for the rest of the season almost. They have a solid good matchups for the next 5 weeks in a row. Okay, 5 weeks in a row. Jalen Ramsey just got back. He's trying to knock the rust off a little bit because he's been gone for a hot minute. They're getting some chemistry on defense, but they're going up against the Raiders. They're starting a rookie quarterback in Aiden O'Connell. Their offense really just hasn't been clicking, period. Even though Antonio Pierce came back, they won, but their offense wasn't exactly show-stopping.
Yeah.
Okay. And we know Miami's offense is going to probably control the game. And we hope they're leading, which is going to give the Miami defense a chance to kind of pin their ears back and play a little bit more loosely because they won't have as much pressure to try to not lose the game. It's, they'll have a little bit more leeway where if they give up a big play, they're not going to be so devastated by it because it might lose the game is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I like Miami's defense. And like I said, the next 5 weeks are great matchups. Now you get in the fantasy playoffs, you might want to be looking for somebody, but the next 5 weeks are good matchups. I like Miami a lot against Las Vegas. And then my other defense has got to be Pittsburgh against Cleveland. Several reasons that we talked about already. First, the main one, Watson going down, the rookie DTR coming in at quarterback. really underwhelming his first start. Clay had a good argument with that. He was not prepared because he was not running with the ones all week. I like that argument a lot, but we're still talking about Pittsburgh's defense in a cold Cleveland outdoor environment. I mean, you heard me talk about earlier that Cam Hayward's coming back for this defensive front. I mean, there really ain't much else I can say. I will say also, Pittsburgh has an interception in the last at least one interception a game in the last 5 games. Okay, and now they're getting a rookie quarterback that's only started one other game this year. And
whenever it's Cleveland and Pittsburgh, you just expect a low scoring, just tough contest.
Yep. So I like Pittsburgh a lot, and honestly, if Pittsburgh looks really good, I like them in a lot of plus matchups going forward. So keep an eye on Pittsburgh's defense for the end of the year.
I got another challenge for you. I need a defense. I actually have too many healthy players right now, so I've got to drop somebody eventually. It's probably going to be Demario Douglas on a bye week, just because the rest of my team's too good. Am I picking up both of those defenses you just mentioned are available? Steelers, Dolphins, Chargers, Vikings. Who am I going with?
Man, I like the Dolphins, man.
All right.
All right. I'll tell you the schedule, which you probably looked, but they got Las Vegas, then they got the Jets, then they got Washington, which Washington's been better as of late, but they still turn the ball over a fair amount. Then they got Tennessee, then they got the Jets again.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, that's a lot of solid matchups for defenses, teams that turn the ball over and don't, Washington scores points. Well. Yeah, I mean, with Jalen Ramsey coming back, going down the stretch, the last 3 weeks before the bye, they had solid games too. The one was at Kansas City, where they only gave up 15 points to Kansas City and put up 8. They sacked Mahomes twice. The week before that was against New England, put up 10. The week before that, Philadelphia, they gave up 31, but they sacked Hurts 3 times with a fumble, an interception, and a touchdown against Philadelphia. And then the week, so they've kind of come on a little bit before their bye, and now they get Jalen Ramsey back. Man, I feel like they're coming on, and I feel with the offense getting healthier, they're going to be able to control the ball more. I like Miami, and like I said, going up against a rookie quarterback. So
yeah, I got it. I got Miami in the lineup now. Demario Douglas, I hated to drop him, but
I'm a big fan of him going forward. But if you got a better team, you can't go wrong with getting a solid defense for several weeks in a row.
Yeah, I was going to pick up someone else. I mean, I was going to be able to drop my defense from last week, but someone dropped Tajay Spears, so I jumped on that just to have him.
Yeah,
and it's also a keeper league, so I could keep him if I needed to.
Oh yeah, because I don't know if Derrick Henry's there next year. I'll be honest. And then a couple kickers real quick just to talk about. Definitely one that's not on anybody's radar probably, but the first one that is probably Riley Patterson for Detroit at home against Chicago. He's really had 2 good weeks the last couple weeks. This week at home in the Dome. We expect Detroit to have a good week, so that means he's going to get a lot of opportunity. Like Riley Patterson a lot. And then the second one, somebody probably nobody knows of because I didn't know who he was till I was looking up the stats. Matt Amendola for Houston, because a lot of people don't realize Kaimi Fairbairn got put on IR with an injury. They signed Matt Amendola from, I guess, out of nowhere, the soccer field. I'm really not sure. That's what a lot of them do.
He played for somebody like 1 or 2 years ago. I'm trying to think who. He was in the NFL, but he hadn't been in the league much.
Yeah. Well, must have been the Jets because he's got green on in his picture. So that was the last place he was at the Jets before, maybe with Zerline or before Zerline. But comes in last week, kicks one within 40 to 49, and then 2 30 to within 30 yards, 3 extra points. Had 13 points last week at Cincinnati. This week, he gets 3 home games in a row in the Houston Dome. Arizona, Jacksonville, Denver. You got to like the chances of him having a lot of opportunity in those 3 games at home in a dome. So like Matt Amendola as a kicker for the next several weeks, especially this week against Arizona. So,
yeah, he was a Jet in 2021, and then that was for 11 games.
Yeah.
And then last year he had 2 for Arizona, 2 for Kansas City.
Okay. Yeah, so he's bounced around with some injuries.
Yeah.
And but hey, this Houston offense is going to give him the opportunities. So as long as he keeps making the kicks, he's going to get the chance. So
yeah, and also, I mean, Dustin Hopkins still isn't rostered in 50% of leagues. Yep. I don't know how. He's the number one.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't put him on there, which I probably should have, because he's at home in Houston, and at home in Cleveland. But man, kicking in Cleveland with that cold, windy weather, it just scares me because I've seen some of the crazy 30-mile-an-hour winds that they have in the winter, and it's like, but he's at Pittsburgh. He's got Pittsburgh, but then the next two games he's at Denver, and then he's at the Rams. But you're right. I mean, the dude hadn't had less than 8 points in a game since week 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
he's the number one kicker. Like you can't doubt him.
So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, so that's why I was like, but yeah.
Oh yeah, you don't want to have a Cleveland kicker or anybody up north and that's not in a dome. It's scary, but I'm riding.
Yeah. Hey, look, he's been putting up points. You don't swap out a kicker that's doing good. I'm just talking about guys that, if you got a kicker that ain't doing good or on a bye or whatever,
definitely.
That's what this is for. So, but yeah, I agree. Like Clay said, he's not even owned as much as he should be. He's the number one kicker. So
yeah, and he's consistently projected 7 points while everybody else gets projected 8 or 9. Yet he goes out there and puts up 14. It's crazy.
That's right. So like that a lot. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode, guys. We appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you. Please like, subscribe, download, give us some feedback on your podcast application of choice. We really appreciate it, guys. Please be with those prayer requests that we talked about a little bit, as those people need all the prayers that they can get. But thank y'all for just supporting us. Thank you to our sponsors. Go out, support them, and y'all keep chasing that trophy, and we'll catch y'all next week with the waiver pod. Good luck.